Greetings, friends, and welcome to Anti-Liars, where we always seek the truth and dispel the lies. We are back to give you the latest on the current situation of the Unification Church. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to receive future updates. Since our last video, there has been a ton of news, so let's get right into it. In this update, we will cover the fast-moving dissolution of the Unification Church or Family Federation of Japan as ordered on March the 4th by the Tokyo High Court. We will also briefly cover some recent events on the Unification Church Gate scandal in Korea. As always, we will include links to news articles in the description below. I will speak more about this later, but I have to state up front, what is happening now with the dissolution of the UC in Japan and the trials in Korea is clearly heaven's judgment. Judgment which has been caused by a colossal failure of the UC leadership and utter betrayals against God's providence. On March 4th at 11:06 a.m., the Tokyo High Court issued its ruling that the Unification Church of Japan must be completely dissolved. Less than an hour later, hundreds of government agents simultaneously descended upon 300 UC churches, additional offices, and other properties throughout the nation. The agents of the dissolution immediately took complete possession of each property and all contents. They confiscated the keys and ordered all church employees to leave. In effect, all 1,200 UC paid staff are now suddenly unemployed. No activities can now be conducted in the official name of the Unification Church or Family Federation, and there are no meeting places for members to go to except each other's homes. The Japan UC leader, Masaichi Hori, was also removed from his position by the court's decision. Heaven's judgment can indeed be very harsh. Leading up to this severe high court decision, hundreds of cases in smaller courts have been brought by individuals and families against the UC through the years. For example, last March, the Tokyo District Court pointed out that at least 1,500 people had suffered donation-related damages totaling 20.4 billion yen, approximately $130 million, while other estimates of damages go much higher. The total collective amount is staggering. All 1,500 of these people claim to be victims of illicit fundraising by the UC and are calling for financial repayment by the UC. All such cases that have already been decided apparently have been won by the claimants. The Tokyo High Court's ruling entails that the properties of the Unification Church or Family Federation should be quickly sold and the proceeds placed into a fund from which the victims of UC fundraising will be paid. According to current Japanese law, this process can be carried out immediately following the ruling of a high court, even if the defendants file the case with the Supreme Court of Japan. If the Supreme Court were to ever rule in the church's favor, then at that point, the process of liquidating the church assets would be stopped. Obviously, since Supreme Court cases take a long time to be resolved, even if the UC could somehow win, The properties will have all been sold. There is no further redress. This means, brothers and sisters, that since all properties of the UC will soon be gone, and since no meetings or activities can be held in the name of the Unification Church or Family Federation, the UC of Japan has effectively come to an end. Such a colossal failure within God's providence. Can anyone in the Unification Church carry on business as usual without seeking the source and those responsible for such a gigantic failure? Will a similar fate befall the Unification Church or Family Federation of Korea? The dissolution of the UC of Japan is dominating the news in both Japan and Korea. That decision is of great interest in Korea because the current president of South Korea, Jae-myung Lee, has called already for dissolution of the UC of Korea due to the scandals involving the bribery of elected officials by the UC. The media has dubbed this the Unification Church Gate. The fate of the church in the Unification fatherland is now hanging in the balance. A quick update on Korea. There have been reports of Mrs. Hak Jahan's fading health, and her recent 9 days in the hospital for treatment of her heart condition proves that to be true. She was kept in custody while in the hospital and was denied an extended leave. So she had to return back to the detention center, and her court hearings will continue. Recently, 2 of the 3 judges in Mrs. Han's court trial were replaced. While it was earlier expected that a decision in her trial might be reached sometime in March, now, due to the 2 new judges needing to be brought up to speed on the case, the speculation now is that the decision will probably be given in May or even June. Much earlier, on January the 28th, Young Ho Yoon, the former UC international leader, who was seen generally as the second in command to Mrs. Han, was sentenced. The Seoul Central District Court sentenced Yoon to 14 months in prison for his role in the bribery scheme. He was also convicted of embezzlement of church funds used for the bribes. The fact that Yoon received such a light sentence has been attributed to his being designated as cooperating with the prosecutors. This means that he undoubtedly fed them information they can use against Mrs. Han. He is already infamous for having testified that everything he did was under directions from her, thus being the first UC leader to throw Mrs. Han under the bus. In contrast to his sentence, the shaman, Jun Song-bae, who was essentially just the courier of bribe items between various parties, received 6 years in prison, over 5 times the sentence of Yoon. For receiving bribes from the UC, former First Lady Kyung-hee Kim was sentenced to 20 months in prison. These sentences are not a good sign for Mrs. Han, who has been cast from the beginning as the central instigator by the prosecutors and backed up by Yoon's testimony. Mrs. Han, who did not even complete high school, is seen by many as a victim of the UC leadership. The UC leaders did not advise her about the illegalities of the gifts to elected officials beforehand, nor has any of them stepped up publicly to take personal responsibility in the matter and to help take the heat off of the 82-year-old wife of the deceased Reverend Moon. Another of those UC leaders is Mrs. Wonju McDivitt, known in Korea by her maiden name, Jung Wonju. In a recent development, Mrs. McDivitt, a former Secretary General of the UC, was called in for a second round of interrogations on February 23rd. She is now a formal suspect in the scandal. Prosecutors suspect her of having facilitated political lobbying and split donations by the UC. She faces charges of violating the Political Funds Act for allegedly being involved in offering money to lawmakers from both political parties. While these charges are similar to the charges against Mrs. Hak Jahan, it is suspicious that unlike Mrs. Han, the much younger Mrs. McDivitt has not been incarcerated until now. Is she, like Young Ho Yoon and others, also protecting herself at the expense of Mrs. Han? In conclusion, as Anti-Liars has stressed much earlier and often, the Unification Church is facing such catastrophes as is happening in Japan and Korea because it has lost heaven's support. The Unification Church has lost heaven's support primarily because of its leadership going against principle, going against God's providence, and going against both the third and fourth Adams, hence going against the Adamic authority, which is the bedrock foundation of the unification movement. There are dire consequences for these actions, which the UC is painfully finding out with the dissolution of the Japanese UC and the collapse of UC worldwide. Some UC leaders have gone to jail. Others are headed in that direction. The real culprits within the UC leadership repeatedly lied directly to Reverend Sun Myung Moon in their campaign to bring disfavor to Dr. Hyunjin Preston Moon, and have lied to the membership continuously and ever more blatantly. Sadly, due to the leaders' lies, the members and blessed families who continue to believe and support them are also paying the price. That price will be steeper and steeper as time goes on. It is the responsibility of all Unification Movement members and blessed families to pray and to use their best discernment to know who is telling them lies and who is telling them the truth. I finish by asking you, is it mere coincidence that the fortune and reputation of the UC continue to plummet while the works and esteem of Dr. Hyunjin Preston Moon continue to rise? For the sake of your families and nations, please consider most seriously the scenario unfolding in front of your very eyes. Join us for the next episode of Anti-Liars, where we always seek the truth and dispel the lies. God bless you and your family.